radio station. 89.3 is WKKC. This is Focus Talk, the thought-provoking, solution-oriented talk show daring to make a difference in our communities. We're talking on a regular basis. Why? Because the answers really matter. What are we talking about? Well, I'm glad you asked. We're talking about politics, religion, personal development, education, and then from time to time we are highlighting positive people who are doing positive things in Chicago as well as all over the nation. I'm your host, Dennis Snipe. Today I am so very happy and pleased to have the principal of Walter H. Dyett High School for the Arts, New Century, New Needs, New Direction, in the studio with me today, Principal Beulah McLoyd. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I am well.
Good.
I am well.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming and
Absolutely.
sharing some information with us today. Now, give me a little information about who you are and what you do.
Great. My name is Beulah McLoyd. I have the awesome opportunity to run a brand new arts high school on the south side of Chicago. I am an Inglewood native, born and raised in Inglewood, and now I'm a Bronzeville resident. So I've lived in Bronzeville for about 10 years. I actually have been in education about 15 years now. I taught English for 5 years, and the rest of my career I've been in administration in Chicago Public Schools. So that is my background, and I'm happy to be here today.
Now, how did you find yourself as the principal of Walter H. Dyett High School for the Arts?
I ask myself that every day. So that's a great question. I actually was the principal of Michelle Clark High School for 5 years, and I had a great time there. I had the wonderful pleasure of making sure the school moved from a level 3 school to a level 2+ school, formed some great systems, sent a lot of kids to college, and I was really happy there. But I always had a passion for, number one, the arts, and number two, starting a high school, being able to basically create a culture as opposed to changing one, being able to start a school from the ground up and actually make sure kids had a great opportunity to thrive and excel. So the reason that I interviewed for this job and took this job is that, number one, I live in Bronzeville, so I have a personal commitment to make sure the school is successful. But I've also always had a desire to build a culture, to actually be able to create a school that focused on students' natural creativity. So this was the best of both worlds for me.
Now, Principal McLoyd, why the arts? Because when people talk or individuals talk specifically about education, it's more of a focus on reading, writing, mathematics, those particular things, as opposed to dancing, singing, or playing an instrument.
Great question. And I would say, the first thing I would say about that is that I think there's a false choice. I think you can provide kids with a comprehensive, rigorous core academic experience with English, math, science, and social studies, and also really cater to their natural creativity that so many kids don't have an outlet for. So if you walk down the street right now, I'm sure you'll see a student with some earphones in his or her ear, and he or she is listening to some sort of music that we might not understand per se, but they are listening to that music, they are engaged, and those artists speak to our kids. So why not actually tap into kids' natural creativity, and in addition to that say, hey, we want to give you 5 years of math in 4 years. We want to give you advanced placement classes freshman year. We want to expose you to college classes early, because that's what we plan to do at Walter Dyett. We don't plan to supplant the natural core curriculum. We plan to supplement it. We plan to say, hey, yes, we value math, science, English, and social studies, but we also value you, the student. We honor your creativity. We want you to be innovative. So we'll give them 4 years of arts classes, but we'll also give them 5 years of math if they're really motivated to do so.
Now, in the meantime, needless to say that education is a very hot-button topic here in Chicago, and not only Chicago, but all across the nation, that you have students who deal with other issues outside of education before they even get to school.
Absolutely.
For example, social, economic issues, housing, and the issues go on and on. Now, what's your plan for helping students deal with those particular issues before they actually get to school?
Great question, because as a principal in Chicago Public Schools, I can not only be an educator, I have a responsibility to address the whole student, and we know that several of our students come to us with a great deal of need. So I plan to address that in a few ways. One is early identification. Data is a wonderful thing and a powerful tool if used properly. And what I will say that I love about Chicago Public Schools is that before kids even come to high school, we have so much information and so much data on them in terms of grades, behavioral challenges, not just academic test scores, but everything that's not academic. We can see in our system who kids, on a limited level, because that doesn't paint the entire picture, but we have a glimpse of who they are. So we plan to, as soon as we get students into our system, identify what supports and interventions kids actually need and basically break them into tiers. So if a student has perhaps been suspended several times in elementary school, we can see that. If they've struggled with reading and literacy, we can see that. And we can plan ahead of time to put early interventions in place. The second thing we can do to address that is partner with community agencies to make sure if we know that kids, for example, might be homeless, or they may need counseling, or they might have anger issues, they might have some challenges, we can address that. Because I'm not a clinician, but if I partner with an organization that has clinicians, I can further address those needs. So through partnerships with outside agencies and early interventions and identifications, we can address those social emotional needs.
Now, Principal McLoyd, allow me to shift gears just for a moment. I understand that there are 5 paths that Walter H. Diet travels. Can you give me some more information about those paths?
Great. So when our students enter freshman year, they'll be able to choose from 5 pathways: music, dance, digital media, visual arts, and what is my other one? Theater. Theater is the 5th one. So if I'm a freshman and I know, like a lot of 8th graders, as I've been visiting elementary schools, a lot of my 8th graders who will attend next year, they already know they want to dance. They've told me this. They've told me, you are my principal, I am coming to Diet, and I want to dance. And I'll have them. They can take 4 years of dance classes. So that could be ballet, that could be modern dance, that could be jazz, that could be hip-hop. Music, same thing. Theater, same thing. So in addition to this robust core, because we know that students need to know how to read, write, and think well, we'll be able to also give them those 4 years of whichever path they choose.
Okay. So now I'm curious as to each path. Now, are there individuals that you will tap from various industries of those same paths to come in and talk to students, or where they can go and deal with it? Let's say, for example, here at radio, that if there are students who are interested in radio, would someone from the industry actually come out and teach students about it?
Absolutely. We have partnered with a lot of community organizations already to make sure that kids have the ability to apply the knowledge that they learn. Chicago is a great landscape. Chicago is a classroom, not just a physical classroom, but the cultural aspect of Chicago is such a huge classroom. So we want to make sure we partner with the organizations that are in the city to ensure that kids who learn about Picasso, for example, or Basquiat, for example, can actually go to a painting, actually a museum or an art gallery, and actually learn about and apply the information that they already learned. So, yes, to answer your question, we will. We also had a technical advisory committee that helped to devise the plans for Diet, and those are experts in the fields, in the arts. So, for example, Homer Bryant, who runs the Chicago Multicultural Dance Center, was a key stakeholder in terms of mapping out the dance curriculum. He actually trained President Obama's daughters ballet. He taught them how to do ballet. So he's agreed to come on board and speak to children periodically about what it actually takes to be successful in that industry, and just some practical tips on how to do well and present yourself in public.
So now, if my child has specific needs, or there are some certain things that he or she may need in order to be up to speed, to get into high school, to make sure that they're keeping up with the other students, can assistance be provided?